everyone, welcome back. We're going to pick up where we left off. In this video, we'll talk about the ongoing backlash around Myonlysunshine, the actress's response, the sexualization discourse around Freen and Becky as Nano, Milk being upset, Lenamiu fans being divided over Please Love, criticism around Playpark, LMSY updates, and some quick thoughts on upcoming and currently airing GLs. So let's get into it. After the whole controversy around Myonlysunshine, Atom, the actress who plays Flint, released a statement which I also shared earlier. In that statement, she referred to Flint's actions as a mistake, which was a very poor choice of words. Fans quickly picked up on that. On top of that, she later posted the same statement again on TikTok as a caption under a dance video, which made fans even more upset. People were saying that it felt like she either didn't understand the seriousness of the issue or didn't care enough about the concerns fans were raising. What really made me mad, though, is that we never saw any statement from the company itself. They didn't bother addressing the situation at all. Instead, it felt like they pushed the actresses under the bus to handle the backlash themselves. In a highly competitive and already saturated market, of course, actresses don't want fans to stop watching their series. So the message they kept giving was basically, keep watching and you'll see how this action affects their relationship and how the story develops. But despite all the explanations, at the end of the day, it's still SA, and fans simply don't want this to be treated like a romantic love story when that's what it currently looks like. In fact, over the past couple of days, more and more content creators and fans have started speaking up about scenes like this. But despite all of that, there is still a small group of people online defending the show with their whole heart. They are fully supporting the series and backing up the actresses. And like I've said before, this isn't hatred toward the actresses, it's criticism of the content that was shown. Moving on. Another conversation I saw happening was among Emmy and Bonnie fans. Because Myonlysunshine and Moonshadow exist in the same universe, people started asking whether Moonshadow is going to have the same problems, especially when it comes to consent. Now, I've actually read some of the beginning chapters of Moonshadow. It's not a very long novel, just a few hundred pages. From what I saw in the novel, I didn't notice the same consent issues, at least not in those early chapters. Besides that, I think we can generally trust GMM-TV when it comes to adapting something like this, so there isn't too much to worry about there. Moving on again, we also saw awards happening recently with many couples and actresses in attendance. One of the highlights of the night was Freenbecky winning the Best Couple Award for the 4th time in a row. So, congratulations to Freenbecky and their fandom. They weren't actually present at the ceremony though. Freen was attending the Valentino show as an ambassador, while Becky was at a fan meeting for Girl From Nowhere, Reset. Fans were the ones who told her that they had won the award, and she actually didn't know at first.
น้องเบคค่ะยินดีกับรางวัลคู่จิ้นแห่งปีในเอ็มด้วยนะคะถือได้นะ10 ปีซ้อนหนูกับพี่ฟิล์มไงใช่
Like last year, there was also a lot of drama around Freenbecky winning. The main criticism was people saying they don't even have a current series, so why are they nominated or winning? Some people were saying things like the Freen-Becky couple era is over because they are now more focused on their solo projects. Personally, I disagree with that completely. Even though Freen and Becky have been working more on individual projects and they haven't had a series together since The Loyal Pin, which started airing in August 2024, they still constantly show up for each other, even when it comes to their solo work. For example, Netflix recently invited Freen to react to Becky's Girl From Nowhere Episode 1. That's a very recent example of how they still support each other publicly. As for the nominations, if having a currently airing series was actually a requirement, they wouldn't have been nominated in the first place. The fact that they were nominated clearly means that's not the criteria. And beyond that, this is a fan-voted award. Winning is actually very simple in that system. The fandom that votes the most, spends the most money, and puts the most energy into supporting their favorites will win. The Freen-Becky fandom is one of the biggest. They are pioneers who helped bring GL to a global stage, and without a doubt they win every year because their fans show up for them. And every year we end up having the same conversation and the same wave of hate whenever they win. At the end of the day, it's a fan-voted award. There's no conspiracy behind them winning. Now, Becky herself became a big topic of conversation after last night's episode of GFN Reset. There will be some spoilers here, so if you want to avoid them, you can skip this part using the timestamps. First of all, I absolutely loved this episode. The second episode really felt like Nano was back in full swing, ruthless in the way we know her. I talked about the first episode before, what I liked and what I didn't. One of my concerns was that Becky didn't get much screen time, and we didn't really see enough of her. Plus, she wasn't as ruthless as we all expected Nano to be. Of course, with Reset, things were always going to be different. There is also now a Japanese girl from nowhere, and that news was confirmed right after the first episode came out. So the Nanoverse is expanding. Nakajima Arisa will be playing Nano in that alternate universe, and it's expected to release right after Reset with Becky finishes. But regardless of the universe, there are certain things about Nano that should never change, and one of them is how ruthless she is. The second episode really delivered on that, which I loved. Becky was front and center this time, and she gave a phenomenal performance. The supporting cast was also really strong. However, the discourse online is mostly about what people are calling the panty episode. The episode focuses on a forbidden triangle, and the main discussion revolves around Becky's final scene, where Nano lifts her skirt to reveal her underwear as a deliberate act of confrontation and a girl taking back her power. Apparently, the scene was censored on TV. But since I watched it on Netflix, it wasn't censored there. And once fans saw the uncensored version, a lot of people had issues with it. The main backlash is coming from fans who think the scene was too vulgar and unnecessary. They argue that Nano didn't need to lift her skirt for the point of the story. Some people also feel that Becky is being over-sexualized, and that the scene ends up infantilizing schoolgirls because Nano is still wearing a high school uniform. Their argument is that the whole point of the episode was not to sexualize schoolgirls. But then in the final scene, the show does exactly that by having Nano lift her skirt. Since the character is technically still portrayed as a minor, they believe it sends a very problematic message. Now, this scene is definitely open to interpretation. Yes, it's concerning because Nano is wearing a school uniform at the end, and it can come across as infantilizing or sexualized. That criticism is understandable. If we look at the entire episode before jumping to a conclusion about that final scene, there's also another reading of it, one that can be seen as empowering. The main theme of this episode deals with heavy topics, from sexual harassment to molka. Molka is a South Korean term that refers to secretly filming women without their consent. It became such a serious issue that the South Korean government had to address what many called a voyeurism epidemic. You might already know that in South Korea, phones are required to make a loud shutter sound when taking pictures. That rule was introduced specifically to combat things like upskirting and hidden photography. And of course, this isn't something that only happens in Korea or Thailand. Unfortunately, it happens all over the world. This episode focuses on how victim blaming works, and how young girls are constantly objectified and rated by boys who rarely face any consequences. Funny enough, my algorithm brought up this story of 23-year-old biomedical student who avoided criminal conviction after filming 150 women in public bathroom in Australia. This man basically got away with this despite being found guilty of multiple charges, and police found 100 videos of women. But he is walking free. For the third time, he is going to become a doctor, and women are left with trauma. This issue is very real. Well, when Nano arrives as a new student, she decides to help the victims take revenge and reclaim their power. There is a symbolic element in the episode as well. At first, the solution suggested to the girls is to simply make their skirts longer, the typical protect yourself advice that puts responsibility on the victim. School director just straightforward victim blames students themselves. But then Nano came and she is like, director is right. We do need to protect ourselves, but not by making our skirts longer, but taking revenge and exposing those boys. As the perpetrators are gradually exposed, Nano's skirt actually becomes shorter each time, almost like a visual metaphor. As the episode progresses, we see each of the boys getting punished, exposed, and forced to face consequences for their actions. The story quickly becomes about the girls taking back their power. It's very much an eye for an eye type of justice, and throughout the episode, Nano repeatedly emphasizes the idea of consent, from the first dialogue to the very last scene. After punishing the boys, Nano takes control of her own body. Instead of allowing people to secretly look under her skirt or violate her privacy, she flips the power dynamic completely. She forces the perpetrators to watch, clips their eyes open, and removes their ability to act as voyeurs. That moment seems like a direct reference to the famous Ludovico technique from the 1971 film A Clockwork Orange, directed by Stanley Kubrick, where a character's eyes are forcibly kept open so they are forced to watch something against their will. So the scene can be read in two very different ways. On one hand, people see it as unnecessary sexualization. On the other hand, it can also be interpreted as Nano reclaiming control and turning the act of voyeurism back on the perpetrators. These boys who secretly filmed and sold upskirt photos are now forced to watch the very thing they were so desperate to see, but this time completely under Nano's control and consent. She lifts her skirt willingly, turning their predatory gaze back against them. It highlights consent and the discomfort of having their assumed right to look away being taken away and reversed. Personally, I think this episode was a 10 out of 10, from the writing, to the acting, to that very satisfying ending, and symbolism of triangle and how she controls the dog and students mob with reverse triangle. All these tinny little details like why Nano don't like water and always drink red drinks were brilliant. Yes, this was definitely outside of Becky's comfort zone, and probably outside of some of her fans' comfort zones as well. A lot of the backlash seems to come from the fact that the scene feels very provocative, and it makes people uncomfortable. And to be fair, some concerns are valid. Nano is wearing a school uniform, and there is always the risk that twisted people could misuse or fetishize something like that. That's a conversation people can reasonably have. But at the same time, the episode clearly had a strong message behind it. This episode was directed by Dom Sidisiri, a very critically acclaimed director who also worked on both seasons of the original Girl from Nowhere, as well as the film Hunger. His style has never been timid. He often creates scenes specifically meant to make the audience uncomfortable and force them to confront difficult themes. Becky is also receiving a lot of well-deserved praise for her performance in this episode. And I can't wait for the next episodes. I'm really curious about why Sky is here. I've already seen some fan theories comparing him to Yuri, but Yuri was clearly more villainous, while Sky doesn't seem evil, at least not yet. What they do seem to have in common, though, is that they're both somewhat obsessed with Nano. So it will definitely be interesting to see what role he ends up playing in the story next. Moving on, another thing that made Milk uncomfortable and clearly upset yesterday was a very sexualized joke people were making about the outfit she wore at the airport. Some fans were zooming in on her pants and making really weird jokes about her body. Apparently, Milk saw those posts herself, and she responded by posting this. Regarding the details on the clothing, please show some respect, na. She also followed it up with another message saying, let's keep the jokes respectful. No zooming in, cropping, or discussing in an inappropriate manner. So yeah, she was clearly not happy about it. And it's true GL actresses get sexualized a lot online. It really depends on which side of X you're on, but there are definitely corners of the internet where they receive very weird, borderline harassing jokes about their bodies and appearances. Another topic making fans uncomfortable right now is the adaptation of the novel Please Love for Lena and Miu. I've already talked in detail about this novel in another video, but right now the fandom seems pretty divided. Some fans really want Lena and Miu to star in the adaptation, while others strongly disagree. The author of the novel has also been very active online and is directly engaging in fandom discussions, which has only added more fuel to the debate. For people who don't want this novel adapted for Lena and Miu, their main concern is that it feels too similar to Dangerous Queen. Lena's character in the novel is a young, rich, rude, obsessive, only child type of spoiled heiress, while Miu's character is a bar hostess who is often misunderstood and judged as a sex worker. That misunderstanding plays a big role in her storyline and struggles. Because of that dynamic, some fans are saying it reminds them too much of Dangerous Queen, and they don't want to see Lena and Miu in something similar. Dangerous Queen itself already had very divided reactions from fans. I've personally been quite vocal about my criticisms of that show. It's one of those series where people either love it or completely hate it. There's rarely a middle ground. In my opinion, if the show had taken more time and not rushed the second half of the story, it could have been much better. But going back to Please Love, the author recently posted a statement saying that fans are misunderstanding some of the characters. She clarified that Miu's character isn't some helpless poor girl like people on the R describing. According to her, the character doesn't actually struggle with money the way fans assume, and she's written as a strong woman with firm values and beliefs. Another issue fans raised was the profession of Miu's character, but many fans actually defended it. They argued that Lena and Miu playing characters like this could be a good opportunity for them to step outside their usual safe zones. Many also pointed out that fans shouldn't look down on the character's profession. The author also addressed this directly, asking fans not to judge her work because that's actually one of the central themes the novel explores. I do understand that fans are protective. We see the same thing happening with Becky. But at the same time, fans also need to allow actresses the space to explore different roles and challenge themselves. Stepping outside the safe zone is exactly what helps actors grow. Speaking of safe zones, when is Channel 3 going to learn its lesson? The latest episode of Playpark is getting backlash for being, well, kind of mid. And I agree with that criticism. It's not that I hate Playpark, but it's not exactly my favorite either. The biggest problem with the show, in my opinion, is that it feels all over the place. It doesn't really seem to know what it wants to be. It's like a bunch of random ideas were put together to create a series, but none of those ideas are explored with real depth. A lot of topics get introduced, but everything stays very surface level. The show never really dares to go deeper into any of the themes it brings up. And that's pretty much the main criticism people are making about Playpark right now. Plus, I think they need to stop making their shows look like a long music video. What do you guys think? Are you watching the series or not? On a more positive note, this week also marked the ending of 2 shows that I personally really enjoyed out of all the GLs currently airing. Heart Code has been getting a lot of well-deserved attention and praise. It quickly became a top trend on the platform where it airs, Monomax, and has already surpassed 6 million views. Tongpang and Jessie also attended the awards and had a really cute GL moment together. I can't wait to see what they come up with next. We already got the LMSY teaser for Hometown Romance, and they are back to serve. I'm very excited for the next 2 months because I think this is going to be a prime time for GL. Some of the best projects are about to air. We have LMSY with Hometown Romance, Faye and Adam with Broken Love, Engfa and Charlotte with Water the Series, and of course Girls Rule. On top of that, Shades is also going to start airing in April. It will first air on True Visions, which I'm guessing is a subscription-based, and then it will premiere on YouTube in June. We also got the trailer for The Hidden Blood. It's always the smaller production companies with lower budgets that somehow deliver the most impressive trailers. Definitely impressed with this one. And lastly, Earth had its finale wedding. It was beautiful. I loved it. I'm not sure how much of Peden and Rose will get to see in upcoming series, but I'm definitely going to miss these sisters. Whenever the 4 of them are together, those scenes are always the best. Yeah, I'm really gonna miss Rose and Din. Pitik also confirmed in an interview that all 4 of the upcoming series connected to this universe have already finished filming, even though some of them haven't aired yet. They're basically just waiting for the right time to release them. Another series that has officially wrapped filming is Enemies with Benefits, and now fans are speculating that it might air right after Girls Rule. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.